Next speaker is from the QuantStamp, the head of Japan and also APAC, Kei Oda. He will be talking about the great security for the next 1 billion people. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Japanese, but I would like to speak in English.
My name is Kei Oda. I am the APAC Regional Manager at QuantStamp. I joined in February of 2018, so it's been about 4 years, and yet this is already my second bear market. QuantStamp started out as an Ethereum company looking at smart contract auditing, but since then we've become one of the leading security companies in the overall space, with over $200 billion of value secured through 300 client interactions. As you can see, we're actually connected to nearly everyone in the space, and we're here to serve all chains. Our range of offerings is built to really instill best practices into the entire industry, starting with our premier blockchain auditing services. We also have monitoring and threat assessment services. And finally, we also have an insurance company, which is a subsidiary called Chainproof. Chainproof is actually the world's first regulated Web3 insurance company, and it's backed by Sompo with reinsurance provided by Munich Re. As the total value locked, or TVL, explodes in the space, and also the number of institutional customers coming into the space grows at such a rapid rate, we feel that insurance is the best way for us to leverage our domain expertise and also to scale up our company. And so what is it that QuantStamp does? It's simple, really. We're here to solve the hardest problems and also to secure Web3 for the next billion users. Our core strength is our team. We have a very good team that's probably collected the most comprehensive list of security threats in the industry today. And because of our business model, we actually see a lot of the most innovative and also the most exciting companies before they even launch onto the blockchain. And so, given all of that and given our domain expertise, not only in Ethereum, but across all blockchains and all coding languages, we feel we're in a very, very good situation to see all the best trends in Web3 before they begin. And so on to today's topic, finally, sorry. I've been asked to speak about social systems in Web3, so I'm going to talk a little bit about DAOs. I know other people have already talked about it, but I'm going to try and provide some recent color as well as some security themes. So what are they? Decentralized autonomous organizations. They've actually been around for a while, as you'll see in later slides. But what's interesting about DAOs is that they do offer some inherent advantages over traditional companies. For one, they're decentralized and allow for trustless collaboration. Usually, they're very flat and democratic in nature and have some kind of voting system. But what's interesting here is that all of this stuff happens on-chain. And so all the proposals, the voting, and the end results, and also even the actions that happen after those results can happen on-chain, giving a level of transparency that doesn't exist in the real world today. Compared to that, traditional companies are often hierarchical in structure, so they're not flat. They also have very limited transparency, or only very snapshots of transparency every quarter, say. And a very small minority, usually the leadership, can make decisions on behalf of the entire company. Let's look at some use cases today. A lot of DAOs today are focused on treasury management. This is where the community can come together to decide how to disperse funds, what to use them for. MakerDAO would be a really good example of this. Charities can also run on DAOs. Ukraine DAO is taking donations from all over the world and dispersing them through the DAO. And then finally, what I like to call the common purpose crowdfunding DAOs. These are DAOs where groups of like-minded parties can come together in order to carry out a specific task. A good example is Constitution DAO. This happened last year, I believe, where a group tried to come together to buy a physical copy of the United States Constitution. It actually failed, and so the DAO disbanded, but it did set this precedent. And so now we have stuff like Lynx DAO, which some of you may like if you play golf. Lynx DAO is trying to buy a golf course as a collective. Or Pleaser DAO is actually buying music rights as a collective. And so DAOs have actually exploded into the space over the past 1 to 2 years. It's 10x'd over the past year, and so now we have over 6,000 DAOs today. I guess the primary theme here is that it's community-focused, where all members have some kind of skin in the game. Usually it's some kind of financial incentive. But I think we have to ask some very important questions at this point. 1, are DAOs really fully decentralized? 2, are DAOs actually really all that transparent? And 3, what about security, which, as a security company, I have to speak about. Which brings me on to probably the most famous DAO, the one that started it all, and was very creatively called the DAO. This happened in 2016, and essentially the DAO was a venture capital fund on the blockchain. They did a crowdfunding raise in May of 2016, and managed to get 11.5 million Ether, which was around 14% of all the ETH available at the time, into the DAO. And yet, within a month, 3.6 million ETH had been stolen. And that was 50 million at the time, which was obviously not chump change. But 3.6 million ETH, as of today, I believe, is around $4 billion. So that's a lot of money. And actually, this hack could have been prevented. It was actually a very easy attack in retrospect called a reentrancy exploit. And an audit by QuantStamp, which sadly didn't exist at the time, probably would have caught this, and maybe the DAO would even exist today. As it goes, the reentrancy exploit itself was noticed well before the attack took place. And actually, fixes were already proposed and waiting, queued to be implemented. However, this is where we have a very big problem with the DAO model. By design, it's very democratic and flat, and so it takes a long time for consensus to form. There has to be a proposal, there has to be voting, and then there has to be the result before any action can be taken. And sadly, before the fixes could be implemented, the hacker exploited the DAO and stole the funds. And actually, the DAO wasn't even the most controversial thing that happened that year. The DAO hack divided the Ethereum community into two very big parties. The first that argued that code is law, and true decentralization meant that you couldn't reverse what had happened. You just had to accept it. Life goes on. The other half, which actually contained some very prominent members of the Ethereum community and also big investors into the DAO, they wanted to roll back the chain and actually move the funds away from the hacker back to the DAO. And so what ended up happening was a contentious hard fork that split the chain into two. And today, even today, we have Ethereum Classic, the old chain, and Ethereum, which is the new one. And so what I think is important here is that DAOs are great. They offer a step into the future, but there are still some issues. For example, a legal entity can't really exist on a decentralized chain. And so what normally happens is that the DAO is wrapped in a centralized entity controlled by a very small number of people. And so is it really decentralized? And then the other thing is that once funds move off-chain for whatever reason, then that transparency disappears. And so can a DAO actually hold a physical asset? Or can it pay taxes? Or can it protect any IP that it might own? These are all questions that may be answered by tooling, but at the moment, these don't really exist. And so there are still some very big limitations to the DAO. That said, we at QuantStamp, we're very, very hopeful for the future of Web3 and blockchain. Are we in a bear market right now? Yes, I think we are, sadly. There are still some big questions over security as well. $1.5 billion have been exploited and stolen this year. And so we as a company, we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that everyone sees security the way that we see it. And then finally, I would say that despite all of that, and despite some very, very big shocks that have happened over the past couple of months, Terra, for example, we're in good shape. The Terra market cap, UST Luna, was $65 billion, which is actually even bigger than Lehman Brothers was in 2008. And we're still here. Actually, we're so here that we actually already have a Terra 2.0, which I don't really understand. In terms of Japan, I would say that there's a lot of innovation, particularly in NFTs, in gaming, in cultural IP, which Japan is very strong at. But we do need strong leaders, and we need strong innovators. And we at QuantStamp, we've had a Japanese office now for 4 years. We're here to help. And so finally, our mission at QuantStamp is securing Web3 for the next billion users. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. 小田さん、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Oda-san.